Psychotic. Unpredictable. A terrifying dictator murdered after only 4 years of rule.
The most power-crazy of the emperors? Caligula. He was determined to show off his godlike powers by being the most extravagant and the most outrageous.
He was born Gaius Germanicus into one of Rome's most distinguished families. His great-great-grandfather was Julius Caesar.
Caligula was actually a nickname. It means little boots, and it was a name that was given to Caligula when he was just a boy. His father took him on a military campaign. It was almost like he was a kind of mascot. So he was dressed up as the perfect mini Roman soldier, right down to his little boots. He hated this name. He thought it was very disrespectful. And it almost seems to have fueled a kind of psychopathic rage inside him.
Caligula had other reasons to be disturbed. His own adoptive grandfather, the Emperor Tiberius, wiped out his whole family.
His father killed by the emperor. His mother put into prison, exiled, and then starved to death. His siblings died in prison, and he's then adopted by the same emperor responsible for it all. If this were a TV series, it would just be considered unbelievable.
I think it's safe to say this guy had issues. He loved watching torture and gruesome executions. He spent his nights in wild orgies. He was even thought to have committed incest with his sisters, and all this before he became emperor.
He was just 24 when he rose to power in 37 AD. At first, he was popular. He abolished taxes and put on lavish entertainment for his people, like the gladiatorial games. But his extravagance almost bankrupted Rome. He squandered the equivalent of $4 billion in the first year of his reign alone. During this year, he also suffered a serious illness. Although he recovered, many believe it turned him into a megalomaniac.
We're told this story that he was sacrificing a bull in a temple. He was just about to strike the animal with a mallet when he turned around and whacked the priest instead. This man was lying bleeding to death on the ground, and Caligula just laughed, hugely entertained by this deadly prank.
His behavior knew no bounds. Even in public at the Colosseum, Caligula displayed his psychotic side.
When he got bored during the intermission of the gladiator fights, Caligula had his guards grab dozens of people from the crowd and throw them into the arena, just to watch them be eaten by wild animals. Twisted doesn't even begin to describe this guy.
And it wasn't just extreme violence.
Caligula was so out there, there's even a story that he made his beloved horse a Roman advisor.
He was even more insane when it came to his own self-image.
Caligula was so deluded, he didn't think he was like a god. He seems to have thought he was a god himself. We're told that he dressed up as gods and even goddesses sometimes out in public. And he'd remove the heads of sculptures of gods, he'd decapitate them and replace them with a sculpture of his own image. This isn't just power crazed, this is an example of power corrupting absolutely.
After a 4-year reign of terror, his people had had enough. So they got rid of him by stabbing him over 30 times.
Caligula was so hated that after his death, the Senate tried to erase him from history by destroying his monuments. But his behavior was so extreme that he's remembered to this day as one of the most crazy of Roman rulers.
Dealing with a legacy of violence and despotism, the Senate hoped for more peaceful times. But instead, someone far worse was to come.